FOMO, or the fear of missing out, is a way to create excitement or interest, especially on social media. But on this episode, you're going to learn how to create FOMO for live streaming as well as for your virtual events. So we're really excited to have MayKing Tsang on. We're going to be talking about FOMO. As I mentioned, it can be great to build excitement and to get your audience to pay attention to you. But there's a lot more to that. And obviously, a lot of people need to figure out, how they can apply FOMO to pretty much everything they're doing. Isn't that right, Jim?
Absolutely. And we've got the queen of FOMO with us here today. MayKing is amazing. I've known her for a few years now, and we've been at conferences and I've seen her in action. And so, really excited to be able to explain to well, not us, but MayKing explain to us how FOMO can make a huge difference, not only in your live streaming, but your virtual events as well.
Fantastic. So I'm going to go and bring on MayKing, and let's talk with her about this. So MayKing, thanks a lot for joining us.
Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Great to see you, MayKing.
Great to see you, Jim.
What exactly got you started, into live streaming to begin with, in this whole FOMO thing?
So I've got a bit of a disclaimer, first of all. I'm not a live streamer yet, but I've been invited on plenty of live streams in order to generate FOMO for my clients. So that was my disclaimer to begin with. But it's so important. If you imagine your live stream as a TV show, we need to get people buzzed and excited about it. So we need to create that FOMO to get people to tune in. And if they missed it, we need to create FOMO afterwards to make sure that they don't miss the next episode. So I've been a huge fan of people who do live streaming, huge fan of people who are creating FOMO for their own shows. But I also am hired to help create the buzz and excitement for people's live stream shows as well, and virtual events.
Fantastic. I mean, so, as you mentioned, you've got to get people talking about things. We got to get them excited about FOMO. So I have a question for you, and that's, I kind of alluded to this when we started, but can you tell our viewers and our listeners, what is FOMO? And then as a business owner, why really should I care, actually?
That's a great question, Christian. So let's talk about, let people know who are not down with the kids know what FOMO is. It actually means the fear of missing out. And the reason why I explain that is because when I first announced myself as a FOMO creator, I actually did get trolled. And a few people said to me, FOMO? I don't want FOMO. I want JOMO, the joy of missing out. But do you want the joy of business owners missing out on your business? No, absolutely not. So in our business, in our live stream shows, FOMO is actually a very good thing. We want to create that buzz and excitement before and in the lead up and live and after our events and our stream shows, so that we are effectively creating content for the lurkers. And in creating content for the lurkers, it means that when it's time for them, when the time is right for them, they will come and buy from you. But as you know, being in business, we can't just thrust a business card at someone and say, hey, buy my stuff. We can't just write that social media post and say, hey, buy my stuff. Here's my discounts. We need to prove our worth. And improving our worth, we have a 5-step plan to FOMO, which I'd love to share with you if you guys wouldn't mind.
Oh, that'd be awesome.
Yeah.
So, this really applies to business as well as generating the FOMO. But if you have got a community already, then you can create FOMO. If you don't have a community, then you need to start creating it. So my 5 steps to FOMO is B for brand, okay? Everything, absolutely everything starts with your brand, whether it's from your bio, your photograph, your first post or your first tweet or your LinkedIn recommendations. What is the image that and awareness that people have of you when they're lurking on your stuff? okay, is for relationship building. Of course, we need to build relationships with people. And it's not necessarily the people that we're talking to, it's actually the people who are lurking on our stuff. So relationship building is so important in our business. And then A for authority. This is where we can showcase who we are, what we do, that we're good at what we're doing, and we share our knowledge. Okay, so this is what I call pre-FOMO, as it were. So as you're building your community, you're showcasing that you are a leader in your field, you're helping people out by writing blogs or sharing articles and so on, talking to people and helping them with their queries and so on. And then N is for notoriety, which is basically get famous and showcase to the world that you've been on TV, radio, you've had some great client testimonials, your clients are really happy, and you're showcasing all of this. And then D is direct communication. So when the time is right, you're generating that FOMO by building your brand, building relationships, showcasing you're amazing. And when the time is right, you will get your potential clients who will connect with you, which is D for direct communication. So 5 steps of FOMO. If you don't have a community, you need to do all that first and foremost. And if you do have a community, continue to create content for the lurkers by creating pre-FOMO, as I call it, live FOMO, which is your live streaming show, and post-FOMO, what people have missed out on.
Awesome. So MayKing, that's I love that. I mean, brand, what a great acronym to use for those 5 steps. And I think that's actually the first time I've heard that. So I have FOMO now, but now my FOMO is over. So MayKing, what would be the next thing in regards to what do we mean by FOMO for live streaming?
So remember, we've all got the attention span of a gnat. We're all competing with Netflix, with television, with radio, with our children, with our pets. We're competing for all of that attention. So you've got a weekly show or a monthly show, however you show up, okay? We need to get people so buzzed and excited about what's coming up. And writing one post to say, hey, I've got this next show that's coming up on, every Wednesday, 6 o'clock or whatever, it's not enough. Okay, we need to really create that buzz and excitement by maybe creating trailers, like a trailer to a movie. We need to let people know what to expect, and we can do that in several posts. We really need to let people know why they need to turn up and what they're missing out on if they don't turn up, and give people the excuse to turn up. And that is what I call pre-FOMO. Then you've got live FOMO, and live FOMO is exactly how as it sounds. So when you have your streaming show and you've got people who are engaged with your stuff, whether it's on Facebook or on YouTube, and they're commenting, give them the time and recognition for tuning in live. Do engage, bring up the comments like you can do with the fabulous StreamYard, and really engage with the people who've taken the time, to tune in to your show. They've ignored Netflix, they've ignored their children, ignored their parents, their pets, but they're hanging out with you. Give them the respect that they deserve for tuning in live. And then, of course, you've got your guest as well, interact with them live on the show. And if you can give some amazing surprises on your show, that will be even more amazing. And then, of course, you've got post FOMO. So the show's over, but you've got replays, you've got, maybe a summary. You can create some content as a result of the show, little snippets to let people know what they've missed out on and what they're going to see next. And it's a rolling thing. So if you imagine that you are like a TV show that has a series, and you've got an episode every week, you need to do the constant marketing, your pre-FOMO, your live FOMO, your post-FOMO, and get people buzzed and excited. And that's why FOMO for live streaming is really, really important, and for virtual events as well.
Fantastic. I mean, this is some great information, Jem. I mean, I'm getting excited just thinking about this, and I'm over here thinking about like all the stuff that I do, and I'm like, there's some gaps, there's areas where I need to work on some of these things. So this is fantastic learning about FOMO. So I want to throw a bit of a side question into this, and it's the fact that So for somebody like you mentioned going through like the 5 steps for FOMO, how long should something like that take, by the way?
Do you know, that's a great question, Christian. And it depends. It depends on how, to use the marketing terms, how warm is your audience, and, if they're ready to buy from you and they're already buzzing excited, but they're still sitting on the fence, there's obviously something a little bit more that you need to help them, push onto the other side. But of course, not all of your audience is going to be warm. Some of them might be cold. Some people may not have heard of you and so on. So it depends on how you want to maximize your time for your show, for your particular audience, and also your goal in mind at the end of it as well. So, one of my clients, they had a digital challenge. They had a challenge where they wanted to get as many people onto the challenge itself. So that's a pre-FOMO that I created. Then we had the live FOMO, which is the challenge itself with the bits and pieces that I did. And as a result of that, their goal was to basically get people to buy their program at the end of it. So a 5-day challenge, get as many people into the challenge as possible. Day 3, start selling the product and then selling the course, and then, hopefully get people to buy the course. So from, I think it was 1,200 people who got into the challenge as a result of the live FOMO, they actually had a 5% conversion, which is not bad. 5% conversion of those 1,200 attendees. And that was a result of a coordinated social media strategy and a FOMO campaign. And in total, I think that took, I think it was about 2-3 weeks in the lead up before, during, and then the actual course itself. So that was 2 weeks. But then for some events or, conferences, because they don't have a ready-made audience, they're building the FOMO and they're building the brand, raising awareness, building relationships and so on. That was a 3-month campaign in order to get people, over onto buying tickets for the conference. So it actually depends. And then recently, with StreamYard, we had a fabulous conference, and I created FOMO for them recently. We had, I think it was a week's lead-in time, 10 days, I think it was, 10 days where we created pre-FOMO, then we had live FOMO, and then at the moment, we're creating post-FOMO as well. So it really depends on your goal, what you want to achieve. Secondly, how ready are your audience, and what goal is it that you want to marry with your audience, and all those factors in between really help. So hopefully that answers your question.
It definitely did. And I realized, there's definitely, there's going to be some people who go through that like quickly, there's people that are going to maybe take a little bit longer. But I like the fact that, you talk about like, it really depends on your warm audience. And the fact that, you said 5% of 1,200, what's that, 60, I think, and a lot of people are like, oh, well, I want 40 and 50 and 60%. That's hard to get, right, Jen? Getting a lot of people to, to really buy into something, especially if you're, if they're just a warm audience, but they're not entirely sold on you yet, or the time's just not right for them. So one other question for you, and that's, so we talked about this for live streaming. I know the next big thing is virtual events. So in terms of FOMO, like, what do we mean by FOMO for virtual events?
Again, it's depends on your goal. If your event is really to raise awareness about who you are and what you do, FOMO needs to sit on top of a good coordinated social media strategy, really, to be honest, for it to work. So my tagline for my business FOMO creator is bridging the gap between social media and PR. And so if you don't have a good enough social media presence already and you want to try and get people to your conference, then creating FOMO is not enough. You're going to have to do a bit more, So do you have an email list that you regularly email to? Do you write a social media post to try, and to build your audience, as well as let people know about your up and coming events? Those are the kind of things that you need to do on top, in addition to the FOMO. So, a conference that I did last year, for example, from scratch, this was, actually the year before we were allowed to go out and play, pre-COVID, they built a Twitter account and an Instagram account from scratch. And they knew that they wanted to get people to their physical conference. It was a podcast conference in the UK for anyone thinking of starting up a podcast or leveling up their podcast. So we had a 3-month strategy, social media strategy and FOMO strategy on top of that in order to get people there. And they had a target to get 80 people. We smashed that target. Of course they did, because they have the number one FOMO creator here. And we had, I think it was over 110 people who attended the conference. So now we've got this conference and, this following on Twitter and Instagram, and they absolutely, loved what we did at the conference. Can't wait for the next year. COVID happened, but that's okay. We went virtual as well. So in that virtual conference, we had to build a bit of a lead in to, get people to that event. So I think it was a month time frame this time, because we've already got that following there, and throughout the year we've shared great content and so on. So within that month, we reminded people that yes, with COVID, we're still here. We've got a conference. It's epic. It's virtual, and all the rest of it. So there was a lead-in time of a month that time. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an idea of how FOMO works, and it needs to work in conjunction with a good coordinated social media strategy.
MayKing, along those same lines, you mentioned a couple things. So do you feel like, are there some social platforms that are better for creating FOMO maybe than others, or do you think it does it matter?
It actually doesn't. So I'm renowned for being a live tweeter, and Jim and I, we've competed friendly competition between the two of us to get to the leaderboard and be above each other. So Twitter is traditionally renowned for being the place for your event to generate FOMO and generate content and so on. But I've created FOMO just on Instagram stories. I've created FOMO just on LinkedIn. I've also created FOMO on Twitter and LinkedIn and Instagram and Facebook all at the same time. So in a nutshell, it actually doesn't matter. It depends where your audience is and where you want to draw people from. So actually, I did a conference a few weeks ago for a lady in the States, and she didn't think her audience was on Twitter. We did a little bit of tweeting, and actually, because of the tweeting that I did for her conference, and also I did a little bit from my own account as well, we actually managed to get more people to the event. So don't discount the platforms that you're not on, because you never know. Obviously, go where your customers are first and foremost, and the people that you want to come to your event. But don't be too dismissive of the other platforms. Maybe add one and then maybe one other if you want to, or if you really want to go gangbusters, go to all of them.
Interesting. So, MayKing, how can a business create FOMO when they are live streaming? Because I know people live stream and businesses are being told, oh, you should be live streaming, but how do they create FOMO so either one, people will keep coming back to watch the next time, or who knows, might actually want to do business with them?
So I mentioned before about the pre-FOMO, the live FOMO, and the post-FOMO. So in the pre-FOMO, it's not enough to put up a LinkedIn event or a Facebook event and say, come to my show. It's not enough. You need to do a bit more than that. I don't know if you chats remember the fabulous film, The Truman Show, which was a fabulous film by Jim Carrey. And his character did not know who's being filmed 24/7, apart from when he popped into the bathroom. Now, us as business owners, we have the control. We can create our own Truman Show, and we can decide what goes out onto social media, but we do need to write more than that one post. So if you've got a weekly show or a twice weekly show or a monthly show, we need to, do some pre-FOMO in the lead up to your event to let people know when it's on. But it's not enough just to say, hey, come and join me on my show, where we've got this special guest or whatever content it is. You need to let people, give people a reason for them tuning in. Why is it are they going to tune in? What are they going to expect? How amazing is it going to be? That kind of stuff, and create, several posts in the lead up to that. Then you've got live FOMO, as I've said. So live FOMO, of course, you're going to be present, to use my dear friend Marissa Kelly, who's a live stream producer, to use her words. You've got to be present. So if you've got a guest, obviously you're going to show up for that guest. But the people who tuned in live as well, do make sure that if you can't look at the comments live at the time, then definitely go in afterwards and reply to each and every comment, because you're creating content for the lurkers there. Okay, because people will lurk on your stuff, look at your comments, and if you're not responding to the comments, it's kind of like you giving a high five and people not responding. Although with COVID, we're not supposed to do high fives, but you know what I mean. And then, of course, post FOMO. So post FOMO is the quick summary. So what do people miss out on? So do you summarize it in the form of a blog post, or do you do a quick video, say, oh my gosh, this show was so amazing. These are the major points that you missed out on. And if you want to watch a show, here it is, and share a link. And do that several times, So currently I'm listening to a show and, a podcast interview, and I'm live tweeting whilst I'm listening to the podcast interview. And I'm extracting all golden nuggets from the things that I've learned from that speaker for that podcast, and putting that into, onto Twitter. And, I could, for clients, schedule tweets so that they roll out, every few days, as opposed to doing it all in one go as well. So don't forget, guys, pre-FOMO, live FOMO, and really give credit to people who tuned in live and reply to each and every. Don't just like the comment, engage in the comments, because other people are watching those comments. And then post FOMO, just in case you missed it, here it is again, or write a blog post. These are the 5 takeaway tips that I got from the interview. What did you get? And there's lots of great content you can extract from there.
Fantastic
Awesome stuff.
Yeah, this is great. I mean, and I love the fact though that Jem, you and I talk about this quite a bit, and it's the fact that after you finished a live stream, for example, a lot of people are very quick to move on to the next one. And it's not just about, okay, I got to go repurpose this, for example. Like, repurposing is part of the equation, but it's also making sure you're constantly keeping people, aware of this. I mean, when you think of even I'll use a TV show example, for somebody who watches a TV show, or, you watch even a video online, for example, there's ads, and those ads are there to remind you, hey, you know what, there's a show coming up. And it's not to say you have to advertise necessarily. It's that you want to try to stay top of mind. You don't give everything away. For example, in your post, for example, you give pieces that are enough, I think, to get people to feel like they're missing out on something, so that they do want to tune into that next piece. So anything else you want to add there, MayKing?
Yeah, I mean, you're exactly right, Christian. And just like those ads, you'll get different variations of the ads. Okay, so we need to do the same with our live shows. Don't just say, oh, in case you missed it, here's a link to, last week's show. Maybe take an extract from the show and showcase that, and, tag that guest that you may have had. Because, of course, if they see that, if you mention them again after the show, they're going to love it. So they'll click on like, or they may comment. And of course, we want to try and show our live stream show to as many people as possible. And so we can do this by making the link to our show as useful as possible. And as you know, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, we've got this algorithm, right? So basically, in a nutshell, our social media platforms want to know whether the piece of content we've just shared, whether it's useful or not. And if it is useful, if it's got a few comments underneath it, then it's going to show it to more people. And in order to do that, we want to try and entice people to stay onto that link as soon as possible. So, that one show that you've got, whether it's an hour, 45 minutes, you've probably got about 30, 40, even, dare I say, 60 different pieces of content that you can share from that one show. Yes, it is hard work, but so is being in business. And if you don't want to do it, then if you can afford to, outsource it, get someone to do it for you. And, don't forget the fleets, the Twitter stories, the LinkedIn stories, the Instagram stories as well. Don't forget to schedule your tweets, and repeat as many times as you want to on that one show. And yes, it is hard work, but who said being in business was easy?
Love that. Yeah. And, so this has been an amazing episode. I want to have one other question, I guess, for you, MayKing, and that's just really, where can people connect with you?
On all the socials, of course.
Of course. Yeah. So is there a certain username? Is there a certain place that, you kind of prefer to them to go?
Yeah, so my name is MayKing, that's MayKing, and I'm on all the socials as MayKing Tea. Making tea, get it?
Very.
Laughing at my own joke. So you can find me on Twitter, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on LinkedIn as MayKing Tsang as well. So connect with me there. This is the funny bit at the end of the show where people say, "Oh, can people find you? Where can people find you?" And people expect a website. And I rebelled. I decided to start my business without a website. And I know people will be up in horror. Oh, what do you mean you don't have a website? It's in the process. But come and find me on the socials and you can ask me about FOMO there.
Fantastic. So I want to thank you for joining us for episode 59 of the Launch Your Live podcast. On this episode, we discuss how to create FOMO, or fear of missing out, for live streaming as well as for virtual events with MayKing Tsang. Remember, if you need help with your live streaming, contact us at Launch Your Live on all of the social channels. Don't forget, you can also message us as well for consultation on our Facebook page. Again, that's at Launch Your Live. And for more information on this particular episode, go to launchyour.live/EP59. We'll see you all on a future episode. Thanks a lot for tuning in, everyone. Bye.
Bye.